Greetings from Scouse Farm, and I am in Knotty Ash today, and this is a walkthrough of Knotty Ash, but I'll try and speed up the walk because everything's spaced out a little bit, so I don't want to walk all the way around it in one go. So I'm just going to pick a few points out, and we'll start here in Springfield Park next to this totem pole of some description, which is pretty unremarkable to me, so I'll just walk right past it. But I did have quite a few notes on Knotty Ash, and I used to live here, so I know a bit about it anyway. But I left the notes in the house when I left this morning, and this is the third video I filmed today because I lost one video. I pressed pause after 18 minutes when I was walking around because I wanted to cross a road, but I deleted it, and I always do it, so I should have learned my lesson by now, is that don't press pause on a video that's a long-winded video, or you might lose it. It's not too bad when I do little gardening videos like harvesting potatoes before and after, but on walking tours it's just a risk because of my sausage fingers. I end up pressing the wrong button. But in Springfield Park, where we are, over this area is now the Rala, what's locally known as the Rala, which is part of the Trans-Pennine Walkway. So you can walk all that way and you end up near Speak Hall out by the Mersey, and you walk that way and you can end up all the way up by Southport and beyond. But this used to be Knotty Ash railway station in this area, and like for historical purposes that was a great station because it allowed the people who lived in this area to get the trains up to Southport to go to the pleasure beach. But it was closed in the 60s to passengers, and then it was completely dismantled by about 1979. So after they stopped passengers using it, it was still used for freight. It was also used to move coal up and down this area to and from the mines and the power stations, no doubt. But it was ripped up completely and turned into, as I mentioned, what is now known as the Rala. So it's all tarmacked, and it's a nice little walk uninterrupted by traffic all the way up towards Southport and back down towards Spee. And the railway was also where about thousands of US troops during the war, they disembarked at Knotty Ash, and I think they billeted up in this park and stayed in this area before their onward journey to cross into mainland Europe to continue the fight. And this, speaking of war, is a memorial to Admiral Nelson. And the reason it's in Springfield Park in Knotty Ash and not in the city centre is because it was considered not grand enough. So when it was built, they didn't think it was big enough or grand enough to put down in town in the exchange flags. So instead it's here, and there's a bigger one now in town. So that's a little bit of old school snobbery there because it's not big enough. But I'll leave you all to discuss that one and think about why they didn't want to put it in the middle of town. And if you do want to pause the video and read up, here we have information about it. So again, to keep the video as short as possible, just pause it there if you want to read up on it. But as mentioned, it is a memorial to Admiral Nelson. Onward we go. And that you can see in the background, viewers, is ALDER world famous children's hospital. The newish building, because previous to that it was an old Victorian type structure which I was an inhabitant of many times from my childhood accidents and injuries, which were frequent. And now it's like a modernist building with a sedum living grass roof and lots of glass panels and things like that. So that's where we are for reference, outside ALDER. And you can hear some sirens in the background. Maybe they're bringing a few patients in or out of this hospital. So let's carry on the walk. And Knotty Ash gets its name from an old ash tree, a gnarly old ash tree that was outside what was the Knotty Ash public hotel. So public house stroke hotel. But now it's a food shop, a curry house or something. But up until a few years ago it was still used as a pub. But now, like a lot of pubs, it's been repurposed. A lot of pubs end up being apartments or student flats or whatever, and then others end up just being turned into restaurants because they're ideally suited for paying customers with a lot of open space and high ceilings. So I would usually press the pause button now and then walk another few hundred meters and cross the road, but I'm just not going to risk it anymore. So you'll have to bear with me and listen to me rabbit on a bit. But as mentioned, I did leave me notes. I got drenched when I come out of the house as well, and when I got out the car the heavens opened. But luckily for me, I was there to film a few videos. One of them was in a church, and the church provided some nice refuge and sanctuary for me to get out of the shelter, because the door was open and a few cleaners and volunteers were in there, which was perfect timing because it's infrequent that happens. So I was very lucky to get in there and sheltered out of the rain. And that church was one I was planning on visiting anyway, because it was the site of one of the graves to someone who perished on the Titanic when it sank in 15th of April 1912. So when the Titanic went down, there's a grave to someone who was chief engineer on there, in that graveyard behind the church. And you'll get to see that on another video that I'll post up soon, maybe tomorrow after you've seen this one. And let's get out. Now we're walking on to East Prescott Road by the Lord Nelson pub. So as we've got the monument to Nelson, we've also got a pub out here named after him. That's still operating as a pub, so if you are in the area and you want a pint, that's a good place to go. And this is a very, very busy road, because this is one of the main roads leading into the city centre. And if you want to go down to town, you just go that way. If you want to go out towards Prescott, you go that way. And there's still some of the old buildings to be seen there. You can see we had this area, we had breweries, which I think was one of these was the brewery, and that is a relatively new build block of apartments. And then next to that is the Wheatsheaf pub. Give you a look at the front of this ALDER hay. They've got some good gardens there as well, so that's good for the kids to come out and walk around the gardens. But the building itself to me is hideous, but that's just my personal preference. I'm not a fan of modern building styles. And there's another one there, Windsor's World of Shoes. Although they do sell very, very good for value shoes, because they're very cheap. I like to go in there myself. But the building, it's horrible. The building's just like a shed, a garden shed with a sign hanging off of it. So I'm going to try and attempt to cross over now once these cars go past, and then we're going to walk past the Wheatsheaf pub and see some of these old cottages on the front. And it's a mixed area with regards to, some of them are still residential cottages, but some are also shops. And my friend has a cafe there, so we're going to walk past that, but I won't go in. I've just been in to get dry out of the rain before, and I was in there for an hour because he made me help him wash the dishes, as one of the staff didn't turn up today. So I ended up getting roped into singing for my supper, and I got well fed, but I had to do all the dishes as well. And let me run over now. And you can see what I mean about the modern type building. And then you've got a lot of colour in it as well. I think one of the kids, there was a competition or something to design what the hospital should look like, and I think it was loosely designed based on a drawing entered into a competition by a child. I'm not sure, but that's what we've ended up with. So now we're going past the Wheatsheaf pub. And then we're going to be into the frontage of Knotty Ash, where some of the old houses are. And when I mentioned before, it's named after a gnarly old ash tree. The original one's not there any longer, and it died off, whatever, it's disappeared. But in 2004, Sir Ken Dodd, who's a resident of Knotty Ash, and that's where I'll end the video, I'll end it at his former house. he planted another one, so a replacement ash tree in 2004, so that there was always an ash tree growing in Knotty Ash. And behind here, this row of shops, is the Little Bongs, and I know a few people have done videos in the Little Bongs, but I went round there before, because another little reason why I know a bit about Knotty Ash is that I used to live there. So one of them houses, I'm not going to point to it, but one of them houses on the front was mine until 2021, I think, or 22, I can't remember, but in 2021 or 2022 I sold that house and moved to where I am now in Huyton. But the Little Bongs behind, people have been filming it and walking up and down, like poking the phones into people's windows and things, and I know a few of the residents who live out there and they're not happy about it. So just for, I'm going to go and show you the end of it, where you can see where it is, because it is a hidden gem. But I'm not going to go around and walk in front of the houses. So as that's my mate's cafe there. So if you're in Knotty Ash, make sure to get inside there. You won't be disappointed, and he won't give you any discount, so there's no point saying that I sent you. He made me wash the dishes to get my butty. But yeah, through this you can see the old cottage here, and then you've got a gate. That's a private gate, it's not owned by the council, so it's not something where you can have public access. This is all private, so only the residents have the key. And then down this entry is the Little Bongs. That's the pedestrian entrance, and that's the back of one of the row of houses there. And then the way in, the other way in, is to the right, down that way. And this shoe shop wins as well, the shoes. This is on what was the site of the Turk's Head pub, and the Turk's Head pub was the stopping point for people coming from the Prescott area. They stopped off here, and then they get on an omnibus, horse-drawn carriage, and off they would go all the way down that way to Liverpool. And it took about an hour and a half-ish. It's between an hour and 20 and an hour and 40, depending on weather. And then they would be then back down in the city centre of Liverpool. And if you wanted to sit inside the carriage, it cost 4p for the journey, and if you wanted to sit on the outside, it cost you 2p. So if you had a few quid or a few pence, then you go inside, you get a little blanket to put over your knees and keep warm. But if you sit on the outside, you end up with a load of mud on you, getting thrown up off the road. And as you see there's the sign, Little Bongs. So I'll walk you in, and we'll just go into the end, because this is all private. And again, as a request, if you are a YouTuber in Liverpool, don't go into the actual Little Bongs, because there's a few of the residents have been disturbed. People literally put their head through some fella's window and start to say, "Oh, it's lovely around here, isn't it?" You know, that's just ridiculous. You've got to respect the privacy. And as the sign says there, no access without permission. And as I know a few people here, I've asked someone if I can just stand on the corner and point to where they are, so that's what I'm going to do now. But all this area is derelict now, because there was planning permission put in to turn this into some flats and to build a few more houses, but for some reason the planning has been rejected, and I think there's some bats knocking about in the area, so they need to be rehoused. But it's a crying shame really, because you know, it's just been left derelict. So that is where the houses are, in front of these garages, as you can see. And that's like stepping back in time. And the reason they're called the Little Bongs is the common theory, because it's not definitive, is that due to the breweries on the front and the fact that a lot of beer making was happening in the area, then it's sort of a derivation of the word bung, the bungs they used to block up the barrels when the beer was in there. But it's been changed to bongs, and that's what the theory is anyway, but no one can be completely sure, but it certainly sounds like it could be the reason. And then when we get out now, we're getting closer to the Knotty Ash Hotel, or what was the Knotty Ash Public House, and over the road from that is the village hall, which I believe was opened by Sir Ken Dodd, or not opened, but it was like turned into a community centre or something. It's been there for well over 100 years. I think in the 1800s it was built, but again I forgot my notes, so I can't remember because I only read them once. Sorry, mate. But yeah, the village hall here, I think when it was turned into a community centre, Sir Ken Dodd was there in 1967, I think, to do the commemoration. But right now it's still like a youth centre, community centre. It's not looking in the best condition, but it's at least it's still there, and it's not like one of those shoe shops. And here we have another step back in time to this, what I'd say is a Georgian townhouse thing. Definitely remnants of Georgian architecture, but unfortunately a few damaged windows there, which is a shame. And then that Indian restaurant, it says, is the Knotty Ash, and that was one of the first, if not the first, public house in the area. I can't remember, and it's now an Indian restaurant. So I'll just cross over the road now, and I just want to show you something on the other side of the road from here, and then we'll walk down Thomas Lane there, and we'll end the video at the back by Sir Ken Dodd's house. And I'll be happy to get off this busy road because the noise is annoying. So yeah, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately if you like Indian food, but unfortunately this part of it is an Indian restaurant now. It's no longer the Knotty Ash. And the next bit, bizarrely, is a rent-a-car place, the bit on the end. And directly opposite the public house, we have a fountain, which I'll zoom in on. And on that fountain, in fact I can get over now if I'm quick, it says water's best, and that I imagine is part of the temperance movement in the late 1800s. This one was that 1887, it says there, established, and this was from a natural spring well underneath, because we are in or near Springfield Park. The water table's very high in this area, so there are deep wells and pools of water, and that's nice as well, whatever that is. Kennedy Patentee Kilmarnock, some sort of, maybe that was like an operating thing for the fountain, I'm not sure, but that still remains. And as I said, it's a remnant of the temperance movement, where they wanted people to drink water and not beer, because everyone was basically getting drunk in the late 1800s by the sound of it. And we'll just have another look at the black and white cladding on the outside there, the old village hall, and then I'll try and get over and off this main road. Victory is mine. But yeah, as I say, when I come out today, I lost an 18-minute video because you're gonna now be at the end where I started. So I actually started the video right down there. Where are we? Right down there. And then by the time I got to Springfield Park, I pressed stop instead of pause. So I killed the video, killed my own video, and had to start again. But maybe it was meant to be this way and not the other way. And the rain has stopped, which is a bonus. Just another example of a horrific modern building there, some sort of care home. And then over the other side of the road now, when I'm going to spin you around, it's again, I'll film it from this side because it's now a private property, but it was once a church building, which is fantastic. Look at that. So that's now someone's house, lucky person or people. And then as we walk up, you'll start to see the mixture of passing through time regarding buildings. So you got like 20s and 30s and 40s type buildings, and then you're going back again into the 1800s for the cottage style ones. And we're about to walk past, or walk through a big puddle first. We're about to walk past the old school, which is now a nursery. So it's got some unusual modern additions to it, like UPVC doors and windows, but the building itself, the structure is still as it was. So I'll cross over the road. Oh, God, the amount of traffic. And give you a look from this side. So it just looks a bit weird, doesn't it? UPVC door on that. And silly, quite silly. But at least it's still in use for what it was built for. So it's the old schoolhouse, which is now a nursery. And you can see the tower there in the background. That's the church where the Titanic gravestone is, which I filmed, which I'll be putting up after this video, so it'll be a day or two after this video. And I'll just give you a quick glance at the wonderful old Georgian type building with the retainers there. You can see the X, they're the metal retainers where you've got them running under the floorboards, and then they attach to the rear of the property as well, and it just keeps everything tight and stops it flexing. And you see them also on like railway bridges and large expanses of building where there's no internal structures where they can tie into, so they can put a lot of those retaining rods underneath to give it extra stability. But they are fantastic, these old cottages, way better than all the modern stuff. And then as we walk up the top here, we're going to go past the church hall, or the old school, which is now a community centre. Gorgeous with the big massive chimney stacks, log burner going, nice and cosy. And being the third video of the day, my shoulders are wrecked holding this out in front of me, this phone. But it's the pain I go through to make sure that you get a good viewing experience. So hopefully you're enjoying it. Where are we? Where's the thing? Oh, it's the next block. But it doesn't hurt to have a look at this on the way past. And this community centre you're about to see is the Sir Ken Dodd Happiness Centre or something. And it was refurbished by the charitable foundation, and it looks amazing now. But I will be coming back to film again in this church that you can see there. I'll be filming in there in September because they're running, as are a number of churches in Liverpool, in the midweek of September. I think around the 13th, 14th, 15th or something, they're having an open day. So you can come to the church, and there'll be like certain churches will have jumble sales and car boot sales, things like that. And this one, they're putting on an old Victorian show of like what the school used to be, so people can see and go inside the old schoolhouse and read up on some of the old records of the kids who attended the school. And if you think you've got it hard in school now, yeah, you wait till you see the punishment book, because there was a punishment book for all the kids who went to this school. 1837 there, and it's all been refurbished. It looks amazing now. But again, in September I'll be filming in here, so just hang around for that one and you'll get to see what people used to go through in Victorian schools. There, thank you. And then next to that we've got the Knotty Ash detachment of the Army Cadet Force, and this old building here is the Air Squadron or something, Air Training Corps, established in 1913. But as you can see from the new additions, the windows and things, that has been a very, very good job they've done there. They've kept all of the features of it being the old building. And 1837 is literally Victorian, because that's the first year Queen Victoria sat on the throne. So it's incredibly early Victorian, probably was getting built before she was on the throne, but that could very well be one of the first major public buildings opened during the reign of Queen Victoria. So you will have seen as well, because it's already on the channel, that's the Bright Park. So that's the entrance to Bright Park, which is that wonderful little sanctuary for a nice little peaceful escape from the concrete. If you're in the Knotty Ash area, when it's open, get yourselves in there. It's certainly worth a visit. And then when we get round the corner now, we're on Thomas Lane now, but we're turning off onto I can't even remember the name of the road, but I always thought this was Thomas Lane as well, but it must not be. But anyway, we're at the top of Thomas Lane, and we're now coming up to Ken Dodd's house. And for those who've been watching my channel for quite a while, that is the Thomas Lane playing fields. So maybe this still is Thomas Lane, and the 1776 marker is around there. So have a look on the channel on the places of interest playlist, and if you want to see that, there's a milestone there, or a marker post from 1776. And now we're about to walk past Sir Ken Dodd's house, which is known as Oak House, and borders up to the playing fields. And this is it, Sir Ken Dodd. Unlike a lot of Liverpool's famous sons and daughters, he stayed in Liverpool all his life. So he lived in this house all his life. And a lot of the famous people from Liverpool, they up sticks and move as soon as they've made a few quid. But Sir Ken Dodd, who's unbelievable comedian, absolute one in a million, as both a human and a comedian, and he's very, very sorely missed. So rest in peace, Sir Ken. There's a few of us who'll never forget you. And I'll leave it there, viewers. Thank you all very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day. The rain's just started here now, so I'm going to get myself home. And in the good old historic village of Knotty Ash, Scouse Farm, we'll see you all again soon.